Fellow students and friends of the TUM Speakers Series, Mr. President Hermann, and honorable guests, thank you very much for following our invitation to tonight's edition of TUM Speakers Series, which is dedicated to the topic Shaping Global Development. As you may have noticed at the entrance, this is a very special event for us. The number of over 10,000 applications for admission to this auditorium speaks for itself. And this success would not have been possible without our partners. We're organizing the side event together with the Munich Security Conference for the second time, and now together with the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the Global Perspectives Initiative, and of course our TUM supporters, TUM President Hermann and Susanne Oettel, Chief of the President's Staff. We are deeply honored to have truly inspired guests with us who can exhibit remarkable personal achievements, which is Mr. Bill Gates, who indeed shaped global development for the last decades as founder and CEO of Microsoft, and now as co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He will join Dr. Gerd Müller on the stage, who is, as committed Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, one of the most prominent politicians in Germany. We're eager to hear both their insights in the upcoming panel discussion with our team member and fellow student, Nikki Weber. And before you ask yourselves where our speakers are, they will be here in a few minutes due to the heavy and tight schedule. So before I hand now over the stage to our moderator, we are very lucky to have you here tonight, Ms. Crane. I just want to stress the enormous effort our team has had to organize this event in the middle of the exam period. Thanks all. Thanks all to all. And now, Mrs. Crane, the stage is yours. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Simon Dieter Meyer. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to be with you today as moderator of this side event of the Munich Security Conference put on by the TUM Speakers Series dialogue. The Security Conference, as you know, meets this year at what its chairman recently described as an inflection point in history. Wolfgang Ischinger says that this moment in time, in his opinion, is the most volatile since the Second World War. Now, that volatility reflects, of course, not only short-term risks, but also long-term challenges, such as rising inequality, poverty, and hunger, which, of course, are amongst the drivers of migration, of conflict, and of social unrest. And that's why we focus here today on shaping global development with a particular emphasis on innovative concepts in Africa. We will be focusing on that subject in just a moment in our dialogue with Bill Gates, whose foundation has become one of the most prominent development actors worldwide, and also with Germany's Federal Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development, Dr. Gerd Müller, and with a student representing the TUM Speakers Series here from the Technical University of Munich. As you know, it is the TUM that has made today's dialogue possible, and so we begin now with a word of greeting from the President of the Technical University. It is my great honor to hand over the stage to Professor Wolfgang Hermann.
Dear students, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, this is not yet the 150th birthday of this university. That one will happen next year. Thank you for coming, though. Today is Africa. Today is Bill Gates, our most distinguished visitor, whom we will welcome in a few seconds, for which reason I have skipped my little slideshow. However, I want to welcome you personally, and I'd like to thank our students. The TUM Speakers Series has been chartered around about 20 years ago as an initiative of our students. And the series of high-ranking lectures has survived, as you can see, and today comes the culmination. Bill Gates, one of the finest people in the world I know, has been here already 11 years ago. At that time, I think everything was much easier. And in addition to that, as you recognize, the two of us, we haven't gotten older a single day. So we are still doing very fine, and he very much remembered our meeting at that time. Today, Africa is in the focus, ladies and gentlemen, a continent which has been overlooked by most part of mankind for decades, also by leading universities. Our university has scattered activities in Africa, while we have developed extremely strong interactions, of course, with the Western world, with Asia in the meantime, where we have a strong branch in Singapore with more than 100 PhD students working on electromobility in megacities. We have liaison offices from San Francisco through Sao Paulo to India. And we are in the moment about to furnish an Africa concept, which is going to be the living lab concept. That means that in selected countries, we are going to establish workplaces, hubs, where we teach, where we research, and where we interact with firms, with companies. You may have seen our A-car mobile that was constructed and built by our mechanical engineers, a very robust, not to destroy car, so to say, an electro car, which we are going to present very soon in Africa. Since this is a high-ranking visit today, we have also high-ranking visitors. I must be selective. I'd like to welcome the Ambassador of Israel, Mr. Hades Handelsman, and the Consul, his Consul General, Dr. Shaham, also the General Consuls of South Africa, of France, of Slovenia. I highly welcome Mrs. Knobloch, the President of the Israelitische Kultusgemeinde München and Oberbayern, a real good friend of this university, a cordial welcome. I welcome Monsignor Huber, President of Missio, not yet arrived, has Ludwig Prinz von Bayern, who is a member of our curatorium. There is quite a number of members of the Bavarian and the federal parliament, and also many students, about which fact I am particularly happy. Now, in a few seconds, I think, we can welcome Bill Gates and the Federal Minister of Economic Collaboration, Mr. Müller, Dr. Müller. He, by the way, is also a Bavarian, which is good in Berlin. He has chartered the great initiative on supporting, collaborating with Africa. And he has really awakened our country. And as you know, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is greatly supporting specifically to fight against diseases in particularly developing countries like Africa. Vaccination activities and similar things. Our university has been active in a number of places in Africa. I'd maybe like to show you this map. We are scattered around, as you can see, in smaller and larger activities. and we are now going to bundle them under the living lab concept and set a center of gravity also on a continent which has deserved this. Also, in the last year, we have initiated ourselves a program to support refugees. The Bodies for Refugees program is being supported by Mrs. Pohl, the honorary senator of our university. She has donated €500,000 that we are able to unbureaucratically support refugees who are able to take up study courses in technical disciplines in our university. Here you see them with Vice President Müller. And last not least, this is this famous car. As I said, you hardly can destroy it. It's an electric car. It can be fed by batteries through solar energy. And this will contribute to services especially for medical supplies in rural areas. I am just asking how long I am allowed still to speak here. No, normally I got 45 minutes. Everything fine? Probably they have been, oh yes. So here they are. This is a cordial welcome. So, thank you. This is a great day for this university. Welcome, Bill. Welcome, Minister. I just mentioned here that we met in this same room 11 years ago. The security at that time was not that tough as today. But things have changed in the meantime. But I also mentioned that the two of us have not gotten older a single day. And the audience will recognize this. So once again, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is a real great honor, in spite of the fact that this is not yet the 150th birthday of this university, which will happen to come next year. Welcome.
Vielen Dank. Many thanks to you, Professor Herrmann, also for setting the stage for us, because we do want to pick up on the topic of innovation in Africa in just a minute. So thank you very much for showing us that impressive map with the TUM locations all over Africa. It is a great honor that we have with us today Mr. Bill Gates, and I'm going to introduce him properly in just a moment. But first of all, es ist mir eine große Ehre, jetzt die Bühne zu übergeben an den Minister für wirtschaftliche Zusammenarbeit und Entwicklung, Herrn Dr. Gerd Müller. Die Bühne gehört Ihnen. Bitte.
Hallo. Ja, lieber Bill Gates, lieber Herr Professor Herrmann, liebe Gäste, liebe junge Gäste, Studentinnen und Studenten, wir alle wollen heute Bill Gates hören und deshalb von mir nur ein paar wenige Worte. Als deutscher Minister, als Entwicklungsminister in Deutschland, lieber Bill Gates, Sie bewegen die Welt. Als Gründer von Microsoft, uns allen natürlich ein Begriff. Meine Damen und Herren, liebe junge Freunde, Microsoft, darf ich an der Stelle sagen, wir sind gleich alt, Geburtsjahr 55, wir haben studiert ohne Handy, wir haben studiert ohne Personal Computer und dann kam Bill Gates mit Microsoft und die Revolution. Ich habe eine Doktorarbeit geschrieben ohne Internet. Man muss sich das heute vorstellen. Und liebe Jugend, wenn Sie sich fragen, Sie haben ja schon nachgerechnet, wie alt ich bin, meine Frau hat mir zum 40. Geburtstag ein Handy geschenkt, lieber Bill. Und jetzt sind wir 20 Jahre älter. Bill Gates bewegt die Welt, nicht nur als Gründer von Microsoft, sondern als Kämpfer für eine bessere und gerechte Welt. Meine Damen und Herren, liebe Freunde, Jugend im Saal, wir kämpfen alle für eine gerechtere Globalisierung. Ich komme selbst gerade aus Afrika. Afrika, wir haben heute früh darüber gesprochen, wird sich bis 2050 verdoppeln, bevölkerungsmäßig. Das heißt 2 Milliarden Babys und ein paar Jahre später vielleicht 1 Milliarde neue Studenten. Die Weltbevölkerung wächst jeden Tag um 250.000 Menschen. Einmal im Jahr Deutschland, 80 Millionen. Und die gewaltigen Herausforderungen, mit denen sich Bill Gates, Melinda Gates und seine großartige Stiftung beschäftigen, ist Antworten auf die Frage, wie ernähren wir die Menschen, die Menschheit? Wie retten wir das Klima, lieber Bill Gates? Und wie schaffen wir eine globale Energiewende, lieber Herr Herrmann, ohne Öl, Gas und Kohle, das carbonfreie Jahrhundert? Die Technische Universität München, ich will Nobelpreisträger sehen, hier unter Ihnen, aus der Jugend. Wie bewegen wir, und das ist das Thema, mit dem sich Bill Gates und seine Stiftung am meisten beschäftigt hat, glaube ich, wie besiegen wir AIDS und Malaria? Meine Damen und Herren, die Probleme sind lösbar, das zeigt Bill Gates. Eine Welt ohne Hunger ist machbar. Und ich habe eben einen Marshallplan mit Afrika vorgestellt. Wir zeigen Wege auf. Bill Gates rettet Millionen von Menschen mit seiner Stiftung und seinem Engagement und seiner großartigen Arbeit. Es ist ein Glücksfall, dass es Menschen wie ihn gibt. Einer, der alles kann und alles, was er hat, in die Zukunft des Planeten, der Menschen und der Jugend investiert. Ein großartiger Tag, dass Sie hier sind. Herzlich willkommen.
Lieber Herr Minister, genau, bleiben Sie bitte bei mir auf der Bühne, denn es geht gleich weiter tatsächlich im Dialog. Meine Damen und Herren, gestatten Sie mir bitte einen Sprachwechsel. We begin now our dialogue with a visionary leader whom, as we have just heard, has engaged and committed like few other people to the cause of sustainable development. His foundation has now spent over $35 billion to give people in more than 100 countries the opportunity to live a healthy and productive life. And so we are particularly honored to have with us today Bill Gates, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Please join us on the stage.
Ich bleib hier stehen, oder? Ich bleib hier stehen.
Ja, wir gehen jetzt zu den Stühlen und lieber Herr Minister, Sie kommen hierhin bitte, und Bill Gates, that is your place, please. And it's also my great pleasure to introduce Nicky Weber from the TUM Speakers Series. He is a student of political science at the Hochschule für Politik here at the Technical University of Munich. Great that you can join us as well. Nicky Weber.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hallo.
Hallo.
Hallo. Nice to see you.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
So, indeed, we do want to hear from you, Mr. Gates, and so I'll start out with a question to you. We've just heard the minister talk about the need to get every asset we can into promoting sustainable development. And also, the ministry is working hard to promote private sector participation. Now, the foundation has a rather unusual strategy amongst donors. Not many follow a comparable path, making direct equity investments in private, for-profit companies. What is the thinking behind that, and how is that working out in practice?
Well, our foundation has as its primary goal improving the conditions in the poor countries. And we've picked two areas in particular, health and agriculture, so that kids grow up without disease, they have good nutrition, and that positions them for great success. As part of that effort, we want new vaccines, we want new drugs, we want better seeds, and so we're looking anywhere we can to find those breakthrough ideas. We've put out challenges to scientists all over the world, and sometimes we find new companies that are taking risks in these areas, that have a new way of making a vaccine, for example. And if they can't get enough capital, what we do is we put money in, and so we own a part of the company, and we get a guarantee from them that whatever they come up with will get pure cost-based pricing for the poorest countries of the world. We've actually had cases where those investments make money, and that just goes back in so we can give more money away. So the goal isn't to make money. The goal is to get that technology out there and available for the very poorest in the world. Now, in the countries themselves, we're sometimes financing agricultural businesses, extending credit to them, because if that can provide jobs, get better nutrition, that makes a lot of sense. Most of what we do are grants, though, funding primary health care, cheap vaccines, HIV medicines. There it's simply writing a check and just making sure it's used in an effective way.
As you know, our title today has a subtitle, as it were, and that is Innovative Concepts with Africa. What innovations for you as an innovator offer the most promise for a continent like Africa? Give us a few really concrete examples, if you would.
Well, Africa today has almost 15% of the children die before the age of 5. And so that's diarrhea, pneumonia, and malaria are the big killers. A lot of those are in actually the first week of life, where we don't know that much about what type of infection or what problem they have. And so one of the things we're doing is going out and taking the latest molecular biology tools and getting permission from parents to take samples and find out what is it that is a problem there in those, particularly the first day of life. So the first thing I'd say is vaccines have been quite miraculous. Before the year 2000, there were a lot of vaccines that were being given in rich countries for pneumonia and diarrhea. And ironically, the kids who weren't getting those vaccines were at a much greater risk of dying of those diseases than the kids who were getting them. And so making sure the price would come down, there'd be financing, and so that wouldn't stand in the way of getting these vaccines to all the world's kids. That's been one of our biggest achievements, and it's been in partnership. This Global Alliance for Vaccines, where the Chancellor hosted the replenishment for that, and it was super successful. The Development Ministry was very generous in that support, and so we were able to raise the full budget there. Vaccines, I'd say, I'd put at the top of the list. Better agriculture would come a close second. We had in the 1970s and 80s what's called the Green Revolution, and it was mostly for the 3 big cereal crops being grown outside of Africa, rice, wheat, and maize. For Africa, that effort to really tune the crops and get that higher productivity didn't happen. So there's 1/4 the productivity per acre in Africa than there is in the US or in Europe. And so by training those farmers, getting them better seeds, Africa will be able to feed itself. Today it's actually a net importer of food, which is ironic given that it still has lots of land that's available, more unused land than anywhere else on earth. So a lot of upside for that agricultural sector, that's how you start to reduce poverty, is to get, so you not only have enough food to feed yourself, subsistence farming, but then you're taking it to market and you're getting income, and then the family is able to invest and lift itself up.
Just a very brief follow-up question, because I suppose it might surprise some people in the audience that digital technologies weren't on your list there.
No, yeah, I remember when I first got into this, people thought, well, let's just give them computers or something like that. And over time, absolutely, although for most of them it'll come in the form of a cell phone that will let them get farm prices and stay in touch with any advice about farming or health type things. I remember I went to South Africa once and took a wonderful computer with Microsoft software into the slum there, Soweto, and they'd had to go get a generator and this huge extension cord, you know, just so I could do this demonstration of how miraculous this would be. And after I did the demo, you know, they took the generator away, and I was thinking, I wonder how beneficial this will be, given that they're not going to have electricity to run it. It doesn't look like the day after I leave. So, you know, I love digital technology. We're doing great stuff where we're taking, like, banking. This is Kenya's a place where M-Pesa's caught on so that people can pay through their cell phones, and that's being taken to critical mass all over Africa. So digital technology is helping us in a lot of ways, but it's not the first thing. The first thing is health, nutrition, and the agricultural sector.
Lieber Herr Minister, Innovationen spielen natürlich auch eine Rolle in dem Marshallplan, den Sie vorgeschlagen haben für Afrika. Sie stellen mehr als 100 Reformideen für die Zusammenarbeit mit Afrika vor. Könnten Sie uns vielleicht schildern, was sind für Sie die absolut wichtigsten und faszinierendsten davon? Und mit dem Marshallplan insgesamt, was ist das wirklich Neue daran aus Ihrer Sicht?
Afrika muss selber mehr leisten. Sie müssen selber sich entwickeln und Entwicklungssprünge machen. Hier sitzt Bill Gates, Mr. Microsoft, darf ich sagen. Die Digitalisierung gibt uns ganz neue Chancen in der Entwicklung. Diese Veranstaltung wird übertragen nach Kigali und nach Juba. Junge Leute schauen zu. Ich war vor einiger Zeit an der Afrikanischen Universität in Algerien, der Panafrikanischen Universität, ein Forum wie hier, Studenten aus 15 verschiedenen Nationen, alles Jugend Afrikas, die mich mit erwartungsvollen Augen angeschaut hat. Und die Frage war, bringe ich Curriculas, bringe ich Bücher mit zum Studieren und so. Nein, habe ich gesagt, ich bringe euch einen Klick mit, einen Stick. Ich verbinde euch mit der TU München, mit der TU Aachen, und ihr habt Zugang zu allem Wissen der Europäer, der Amerikaner, weltweit. Und nun seid ihr, liebe Münchner, liebe Bayern, ihr seid im Wettbewerb mit den afrikanischen Studenten in Kigali. Wer ist der erste Nobelpreisträger? Kommt er aus Afrika oder aus der Münchner Universität? Das ist die heutige Zeit. Die Afrikaner werden Sprünge machen. Und diese Innovationen tragen wir dorthin. Bill Gates hat gesagt, Gesundheit. Er ist hier der ganz große Pionier. Malaria, wenn das stimmt, sterben heute noch im Jahr 400.000 Menschen. Polio hat nicht zuletzt er besiegt, Kinderlähmung hat er besiegt. Unsere Innovationen, unser Können, unser Wissen, nicht als die Großen, die die Afrikaner belehren, sondern in Partnerschaft zur Verfügung stellen. In der Landwirtschaft. Wir können innerhalb von 5 Jahren, ich möchte euch das an einem Beispiel zeigen, wir haben eine Reissorte aus Taiwan nach Benin gebracht, gestern war der Minister da, ein Screening gemacht, Ackerboden, die Bodenform, Niederschläge. Wir können innerhalb von 2 Jahren den Ertrag vom Reis durch diese neue Sorte verdreifachen. Das Thema eine Welt ohne Hunger ist machbar mit unserem Wissen, Können. Man muss es tun, liebe Freunde, man muss es tun, die Jugend muss aufbrechen. Wir sind 1% der Weltbevölkerung, wir haben nicht das Recht, dass es nur uns geht und dass wir unser Wissen für uns behalten.
One last question on both of you, and then I want to hand over to the student representative here. Mr. Gates, we meet on the auspices of the Munich Security Conference on the margins of it. It has just gotten underway. I referred at the outset to the unprecedented risks that the world is facing today. What would you say is, in your view, the gravest among them? What do you worry about the most?
Well, the basic trend in the world is extremely positive. What's gone on in the last 25 years, we've cut poverty in half, we've cut childhood death in half, Even in Africa, which is the toughest part of the world, as the minister said, with huge population growth that will be a particular challenge for them, things have improved very, very dramatically. For example, literacy's gone from 20% to 65%, which is a very foundational thing. There are very few things that would cause, at sort of a global level, a big setback. The first is war, particularly a nuclear war, but any type of war. Right now in Sudan, things are very, very tough, even though people are very hopeful about that as a new country. The unrest there has meant that it's awful conditions. The other things that would be negative setbacks would include any type of epidemic. We've seen a Ebola epidemic. We were lucky it only stayed in 3 countries, and it wasn't the type of epidemic where you just cough and you spread it. So only people who were very sick were infectious. If it had been like a flu or smallpox, where anyone in a bus together or a plane together, you get these high rates of infection, it would have spread all over the world. We also have a type of epidemic that we haven't seen that we have to worry about, which would be an intentionally caused one, bioterrorism, where the tools of biology mean now it wouldn't take an entire nation state. You could have a rogue set of terrorists, which would be a crazy thing, unleash some type of pathogen. So we have to prepare ourselves for that. The tools of biology, in terms of making vaccines quickly, Germany and our foundation have partnered with Japan and Norway and the Wellcome Trust to form a group called CEPI that's going to push forward the research on that. And then we have climate change, which, although it's not an immediate problem, if you take the next 30 years, particularly in the equatorial regions, which includes a lot of Africa, these farming conditions, the weather, you'll have more droughts, you'll have more floods. So it's important, because changing energy systems is not an overnight thing, it's important that we get going on that. So war, pestilence, and climate change are the only 3 things I see that could take this very positive trend that most people aren't aware of, but that we want to continue and accelerate and interrupt that in a significant way.
Herr Müller, der Vorsitzende der Sicherheitskonferenz sagte heute wieder mal, wir befinden uns an einem historischen Punkt, der vielleicht die volatilste Zeit sei seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg. Das sind tatsächlich gravierende Risiken, von denen Herr Gates gerade gesprochen hat. Was muss sich an der internationalen Politik ändern? Wie können wir diesen Risiken gerecht werden?
Ich kann dieser Einschätzung nicht folgen, auch wenn die Bilder diesen Eindruck erwecken. Wenn Sie den Annual Letter von Bill Gates lesen, dann, er hat eine Untersuchung angestellt, gibt es heute mehr Kriege wie vor 30 Jahren? Nein, es gibt weniger. Aber wir nehmen natürlich wesentlich mehr durch die Bilder weltweit. Wer hat vor 30 Jahren über Südsudan berichtet, über Afghanistan? So, wir nehmen mehr wahr, dennoch ist es schrecklich, selbstverständlich. Die Botschaft der Sicherheitskonferenz muss sein, wir leben in einer Welt. Bill Gates hat es angesprochen, der Klimawandel. Wir können ihn nicht riechen. Aber, liebe Gäste, wir sind bedroht. Die Menschheit ist bedroht. Dieser Planet, der Mensch, wenn wir 24 Stunden die Geschichte des Planeten, dann kommt der Mensch erst die letzten 5 Minuten. Und wir sind heute in der Lage, diesen Planeten menschliches Leben zu zerstören. Die Klimakatastrophe ist in Afrika fühlbar, sichtbar. 20 Millionen afrikanische Menschen, wenn sie in Eritrea und in dieser Region unterwegs sind, da steigt das Thermometer auf 50 plus und dann ist Leben nicht mehr möglich. Keine Pflanze, kein Tier, kein Mensch. Und es gibt Bewegungen Richtung kühlere Zonen, Richtung Europa. Die Botschaft der Sicherheitskonferenz muss sein, nicht sich zu fokussieren auf die Steigerung der Militärhaushalte. Wir brauchen einen umfassenden Sicherheitsbegriff. Jeder Krieg hat eine Ursache. Südsudan hat Bill Gates angesprochen. Was ist die Ursache? Hunger, Not, Elend, Tod der Menschen. Und dann kommt es zu Bürgerkrieg, auch in Syrien. Was war die Ursache? Eine der Ursachen, die größte jemals stattgefundene Dürre. 90% der Herden sind verendet. Und deshalb brauchen wir einen Sicherheitsbegriff, der in Entwicklung, in wirtschaftliche Zusammenarbeit, in Lösung dieser Probleme investiert, dass es überhaupt keine Kriege gibt. Und ich will Ihnen das an einer Zahl zum Schluss verdeutlichen. Das Signal rüber in den Bayerischen Hof muss sein, nicht die Verteidigungshaushalte einseitig zu erhöhen. Wir geben dieses Jahr in der Welt 1.700 Milliarden für Militär und Rüstung aus und 160 Milliarden für Entwicklungszusammenarbeit. Und ich sage Ihnen, mehr Panzer, mehr Militär bringt nicht mehr Frieden.
Ich glaube, Sie predigen zum Chor hier im Raum.
Ich hoffe, die haben es gehört drüben.
Ich kann Ihnen mit Freude sagen, dass es morgen ein Panel auf der Sicherheitskonferenz zum Thema Klimasicherheit gibt, also Klimaveränderung als Sicherheitsrisiko. Und ich habe die Ehre, dieses Panel zu moderieren und ich werde Sie zitieren. Dear Nikki Weber, the floor is yours.
Vielen Dank. Ich würde ganz gerne den Punkt genau aufnehmen. I would like to talk about cooperation, basically, because I totally agree when you say we have to work together. All of these projects, all of these challenges can only be, we can only master them if we work together. But what we're seeing instead at the moment is a rise of nationalism in Europe. The new president in America is claiming America first. And I would really like to be interested, and I think my fellow students and our guests too, what do you think when you see these partners drifting apart? What is the impact on global cooperation and in special in your development projects?
Well, I'm certainly hopeful that even under the framework of America First, that when Americans think, okay, what does that mean about helping Africa be stable? What does it mean about engaging with the United Nations or doing our part about climate change? That is taking a smart view of the world. It is very self-interested. A stable Africa is one that eventually will have economies that benefit the world. We can avoid having to send our troops to so many places. We can stop epidemics early on, and no country can hide from, say, a flu epidemic that would spread over the entire world. And so, in a way, I think it's kind of scary to have the US, which has been such a strong leader, questioning what it should and shouldn't do. If it gets the rest of the world to realize, wow, cooperation has been a big deal, maybe we've taken some of it for granted, we all need to do a little bit more here, and have the US go back to the very strong role it's always played, hopefully now, if not now, 4 years from now, I can't predict. You know, I think that's a good thing. So we're seeing that countries helping other countries, there might be a little blip, but the voters need to speak up. Do they support the development budget? Foreign aid budgets often are so invisible. The press has a temptation to take the few percent that go astray and give big headlines there. And so if you ask people, they're not sure if it's having the impact. Now, we get to go and see it. We get to go and see the figures and visit on the ground. So we have to give our testimony in a strong way that, hey, we're spending this money wisely, and that's why we're partnered together on these things. But sometimes countries look just to their local needs, which in the long run is not in their interest.
Okay, thank you very much. Herr Bundesminister, in Ihrem Marshallplan spielt die Reformorientierung afrikanischer Regierungen eine große Rolle, hin zur guten Regierungsführung, Stichwort Good Governance. Für die Leute im Publikum, die Good Governance noch nicht kennen, es geht hierbei um das Regieren auf Basis von Demokratie und Rechtsstaatlichkeit, und so soll Korruption und Misswirtschaft verhindert werden, im Groben gesagt. Wie können wir diese Gratwanderung meistern, dass wir diese Reformorientierung stärken, aber dass das nicht als Einmischung verstanden wird oder eben als Druckmittel für die Entwicklungshilfe von unseren afrikanischen Partnern?
Afrika ist ein Kontinent, wir haben 54 Regierungen und wir stellen fest, dass die größten Fortschritte in der wirtschaftlichen, politischen Entwicklung diejenigen Länder machen, die sogenannte Standards of Good Governance umsetzen. Das heißt, Kampf der Korruption. Sie kennen Transparency International, den Korruptionsindex. Die Länder mit wenig Korruption oder der wenigsten Korruption, mit Mechanismen und Methoden, haben auch die besten wirtschaftlichen Erfolge. Und deshalb ist es wichtig, Good Governance, Einhaltung der Menschenrechte, dies zum Standard zu machen, unserer Zusammenarbeit. Hier sitzt die Vorsitzende des Ausschusses, des Bundestagsausschusses, Frau Wörl. Wir arbeiten hier zusammen, indem wir sagen, wir werden Reform-Champions, Staaten, die diesen Weg gehen, in Zukunft stärker als Partner unterstützen wie andere, die diesen Weg nicht gehen. Ich sage aber dazu, Bill, die LDCs, wir müssen immer an die Menschen denken, die unter korrupten Systemen, unter Diktatoren in Afrika leiden, diese nicht zu vergessen, selbstverständlich. Aber das ist der Reformansatz. Ich möchte aber zwei Dinge sagen. Öffentliche Gelder, Entwicklungszusammenarbeit weltweit, diese 160 Milliarden, werden wir die Herausforderungen nicht lösen. Ich spreche nicht von Problemen, Herausforderungen. Wir brauchen private Investitionen. Deutschland hat 400.000 erfolgreiche Firmen in der Welt, davon sind nur 1.000 in Afrika tätig. Aber diese Privatinvestitionen brauchen wir. Das ist eine der Hauptkomponenten. Ich nenne Ihnen ein Beispiel, wenn Sie googeln, Varsasate, das Energiethema. In Marokko steht das weltgrößte und modernste Solarkraftwerk. Das können Sie in Europa niemals bauen. Gebaut, Turbine von Siemens, 500.000 Parabolspiegel von einer kleinen Firma hier aus dem Bayerischen Wald. Und wir lösen dort, Herr Professor Hermann, mit deutscher Ingenieurkunst die Frage der Speicherung der Sonnenenergie und der Leitung. Und dann haben wir den Schlüssel zur Zukunft Afrikas. Wenn wir aus der 365 Tage scheinenden Sonne Energie leiten können, dann können wir Meerwasser entsalzen, wir können die Wüste begrünen und vieles mehr. Das ist keine Vision, das wird Realität. Und ein dritter Punkt ist, also unser Wissen, Privatinvestitionen, Firmen involvieren und diese Chancen sehen, Afrika nicht nur als Krieg- und Krisenkontinent. 11 der am schnellsten wachsenden Volkswirtschaften der Welt sind afrikanische. Und hier geht es, und da appelliere ich an die Jugend, Herr Professor Hermann, gibt es hier fairen Kaffee in der Universität oder schenken Sie immer noch, sage ich mal, den Ausbeuterkaffee der vergangenen Jahrzehnte aus?
Er nickt. Es ist fairer Kaffee.
Das ist nur ein Beispiel. Ich war vor einem Jahr hier, da gab es noch keinen fairen Kaffee, im Übrigen auch nicht bei Kardinal Marx über der Straße. Und dann sagt er, was ist fairer Kaffee? Dann sage ich, fairer Kaffee ist, ich war eben letzte Woche in Kenia und habe mir das angeschaut, der Kaffeebauer in Kenia bekommt für 1 Kilo Kaffee, das ist Rohprodukt, 50 Cent. Das ist Sklavenarbeit und ein Sklavenpreis, wovon die Leute nicht leben können. Dieser Kaffee wird nach Hamburg transportiert, geröstet und Ihnen für 10 € dann verkauft. Und das ist das Thema. Wertschöpfung muss am Anfang der Kette in diesen Ländern erfolgen. Arbeitsplätze gestaltet werden, den Menschen einen fairen Preis zahlen, ein Minimum-Einkommen, und zwar von unseren Wohlstandsgütern. Ich will euch nichts wegnehmen, aber wir sollten nachdenken darüber, dass 10% der Weltbevölkerung, wir 90% des Vermögens besitzen. Und deshalb müssen wir diese Wertschöpfungsketten neu gestalten. Das sind die 3 Elemente.
Mr. Gates, Bundesminister Müller is from the public sector, and there's this one question all of our students always try to ask us to ask this question is, why did you decide to get engaged as a private person instead of getting into politics? Why aren't you considering running for president, for example?
Well, I I think it's important that we have very good politicians. And any of you who want to go into public service, please, the role of the government is super important. We need creativity. We need the best people going into it. And one of the potential problems of the divisiveness, here I'll speak just of the US, is that it makes it harder for people to choose to go into that. For myself, I had my first career, which was running Microsoft. I was young and fanatical, and it was perfect for me. Now, the rest of my life will be engaged in the foundation. I don't have to run for office. I don't have term limits. It's very nice. Presidents will come. Perhaps they'll go. We'll see. And so, I love government, and when we think of foreign aid, because our foundation is very visible, people sometimes think, hey, maybe the Gates Foundation is up there at the same scale. Foreign aid as a whole is over 40 times as much as we spend. Just German foreign aid is 5 times what we spend. US foreign aid is 10 times what we spend. And so it's the generosity where Europe as a whole has been the majority of it. Without that, that is an underlying thing. I completely agree now we need to add on top of that these private sector things, because the foreign aid isn't going to go up dramatically. We'll try and keep that, and Germany's been good about good increases, but the thing to add in is innovation and private sector activity. And we're all trying to explore what are the barriers to drawing more businesses into Africa. What are the limits, the risks that we can help entice them in?
Thank you very much. I would like to pick up the point, the Marshall Plan, once again for you, Mr. Gates. After World War II, the American Marshall Plan was crucial for the German economy, but the basis of the Wirtschaftswunder were entrepreneurs and hardworking people. Here at TUM, we claim to be the entrepreneurial university, and I would really like to know which advice would you give students starting a business today?
Well, I'm a huge believer that people getting out of the university today are going to have amazing opportunities. Whether you're in the world of medicine, where we have a chance to take infectious disease, bring it to an end, tough problems like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer. Over the next 2 decades, during your careers, you'll be involved in the businesses that will change that dramatically. In the area of education, all these great online resources, how do we bring that to bear so even workers who are displaced feel like they can reassume a meaningful role in society? A huge challenge, which if we don't solve, some of this voter backlash could get even worse. In the area of energy, we don't have today 24-hour-a-day, low-cost, clean energy. And so when we go to countries like India and we say, hey, stop using coal, we don't really have a good answer for them. So your inventiveness, understanding science and business and policy, that we need a revolution, and we need it fairly quickly because climate change is increasing as a problem every day. So, the sciences are the place where I think you'll see the most fundamental change, but building business around those science advances, having them reach out globally, this is a very exciting time to be going to a top university like this one.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I would like to, yeah, especially today. What can I say? I would like to get a little bit more into this point, what we as individuals can do. Und probably, Herr Bundesminister, vielleicht können Sie dazu auch noch ein paar Worte sagen, was wir als Privatpersonen, als Studenten tun können, abseits des Akquirierens von Fairtrade-Kaffee, den es übrigens gibt, soweit ich weiß. Eventuell können Sie uns da noch ein paar Einblicke geben.
Jeder kann viel tun, jeder Einzelne ist gefragt. Ich nenne Ihnen ein zweites Beispiel. Wir müssen als Konsument unsere Macht ausüben. Ich habe das deutsche Textilsiegel ins Leben gerufen. Ich wurde verlacht vor 3 Jahren, als ich gesagt habe, es kann nicht sein, dass in der Textilindustrie in Bangladesch, in Pakistan Millionen von Menschen unter Existenzminimum arbeiten, damit wir unsere Jeans hier bekommen. Die Jeans von der Frau da oben, der Fotografin, die kommt vermutlich, sie wird gleich reinschauen, aus Bangladesch. Ich war...
She says no.
Reinschaut. Okay. Ich war vor kurzem in Bangladesch, um Ihnen das ganz kurz, weil jeder Zweite hat eine Jeans an, da können Sie das sehen und nachvollziehen. In Bangladesch in einer solchen Rana Plaza, in einer solchen Fabrik, 4000 Näherinnen, die 15 Stunden arbeiten für 15 Cent 6 Tage. Und am Ende des Monats kommt ein nicht existenzsichernder Lohn raus. Die können ihre Kinder nicht zur Schule schicken, deshalb geringer Bildungsgrad, keine Medikamente kaufen und so weiter. Dann gehe ich in den Showroom dieser Firma, die produzieren für H&M, für C&A, für Zara, für deutsche Firmen, für europäische Markenartiklern. Die Jeans, ich wurde dann gefragt, ein deutscher Minister, wie viel Geschenk, also welchen Umfang darf ich annehmen, wie teuer darf ein Geschenk sein, ist auf 40 € limitiert. Und was meinen Sie, wie viele Jeans ich geschenkt bekomme? 8 Stück, die kostet $5. Eine Jeans, eine Markenjeans in Bangladesch hergestellt, meine Größe, alles dran, $5. Sie geht nach Deutschland und hängt 14 Tage später hier im Kaufhof in München bei Hirma und Sie kaufen die Jeans für $100. Und die Frage stellt sich, wo sind die $95 geblieben? Das ist das Thema. Wir müssen $1 mehr von der Jeans in Bangladesch lassen, dann können wir den Näherinnen existenzsichernden Lohn bezahlen, können ihre Kinder zur Schule schicken, Medikamente kaufen. $1 muss uns das wert sein, mehr am Anfang faire Preise zu bezahlen und so können Sie, wir als Verbraucher, enorme Wirkungen entfachen. Mitmachen. Ja, und das könnte ich jetzt, ich will aber nicht weiterreden, aber wie geht's da ist? Wissen Sie, ich frage natürlich Microsoft, ich frage auch Apple. Es funktioniert kein Handy von euch. Kein Handy ohne Coltan und andere seltene Erden, die produziert werden im Kongo. Auch das habe ich gesehen. Und ich gehe davon aus, dass Microsoft sowieso und Apple auf alle Fälle am Anfang der Kette ökologische und soziale Mindeststandards in den Minen einhalten. Das muss garantiert sein. Wenn so ein Handy 800 € kostet, dann können am Anfang nicht Kinder davon im Dreck stehen und die Umwelt vernichten. Dann möchte ich zertifizierte Wertschöpfungsketten.
Mr. Gates,
wir können ja jetzt darüber reden, wie es bei Microsoft ist.
Mr. Gates, I'm not sure if you got the translation. The question was what we, as students, as individuals, can do to contribute to a positive development in Africa. Do you have any insights on that, despite thinking about which phone we buy next?
Well, Microsoft doesn't sell many phones. Maybe they didn't like the minerals being used in them or something. The engagement of young people in democracy and in going out and seeing what's going on in these countries is absolutely critical. You know, your true engagement in these issues comes primarily from experiencing them firsthand. And that's why it's too bad, you know, malaria is not here, abject poverty is not here. It feels very far away. And at least if some of you get out there, see those things, volunteer sometime, then it becomes very direct, what needs to be done, what that government action looks like. And it's not just a statistic, which unfortunately tends to overwhelm people, doesn't connect with them in a very direct way. People who get involved at a young age, even if they give very little money, a little bit their political voice, that's helpful. Over time, through their success, they're going to find a way to have a big impact on these issues.
Mr. Gates, you inspire a lot of young people. We had over 10,000 registrations for this event. Unfortunately, only about 1,000 people can be here, and I hope a lot of people are watching in front of their live streams. If you would have the possibility to talk to your 20-year-old, to the 20-year-old Bill Gates, what would the advice be you would give him at the moment?
Well, I wouldn't want to toy with success. I wouldn't want to try and change anything. Who knows?
You shouldn't tamper with time, yeah.
It'd be like one of those time machine paradoxes. I would not say a word. You know, I was extremely naive when I was young. I made lots of mistakes in terms of, you know, learning how to run a company and how to bring the right skill sets in. But on balance, because of hard work, sort of a fanatic belief in the magic of software, you know, building up a great team, we got a chance to be part of building the digital industry, which, you know, now software is getting even better. And fortunately, it is becoming a magical element that we can use in some of these development projects. The way we're tracking primary health care and tracking our vaccines getting used, more and more, it's through these digital systems. And when you say, will we be able to reduce corruption in Africa? Partly it'll be that we track the money in a very digital way and are able to crack down on the various schemes that are used to divert the money. So governance, the quality of governance in Africa is going to be going up 10 years from now, 20 years from now, until those countries get out of the poverty trap that they're in today.
Many, many thanks to you, Bill Gates, for being with us here today. Vielen herzlichen Dank, lieber Herr Minister, dass Sie auch uns beglücken mit Ihrer Anwesenheit. Also ein ganz herzlicher Applaus, bitte.
Thank you. Thank you.
Auch ein Dank an Niki Weber.
Danke.
Vielen herzlichen Dank an Niki Weber und auch an alle Studenten, die Fragen eingereicht haben. Das war also eine Synergiearbeit, glaube ich, auch mit anderen Studenten zusammen. Ja. Also viele wirklich sehr spannende Fragen haben Sie alle gestellt. Und vielen herzlichen Dank an Sie im Publikum für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Darf ich Sie bitten, jetzt gleich, wir werden hier ein ganz kleines Foto machen, würden Sie bitte ganz kurz in Ihren Plätzen bleiben, damit unsere Gäste erstmal den Saal verlassen können. Vielen herzlichen Dank dafür. Please stay in your seats just so that our guests of honor can leave the room unhindered. And I wish everybody a wonderful evening. Many, many thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Sehr gut gemacht.
Ganz toll.
At that point,
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. Really.
we, as the representatives of the TUM Speakers Series, would like to thank you, Melinda Crane, for the time, for your great moderation. Mr. Gates, for your time. Mr. Müller, thank you that you're here. You received the present already beforehand, your lederhosen. I hope that's pretty representative.
Thank you.
That's cool. That'll be useful in California.
What we as the students are going to do now is we are going to have a toast on you with your own beer. The brewery, Weihenstephan, which is a TUM brewery, made you a beer. It's the official Bill Gates beer. It's unique. Thank you, Weihenstephan.
Ah, great. Super. Wow.
So now, there's a special part for this photo. Because you came here and there was such a big lottery, we want you to be in that picture. That's why we turn around like a selfie. I ask our photographer to go in front of the screen and take a picture with the audience, please.
Okay. Wir gehen jetzt da raus, oder?
Erstmal noch einmal.
Ah ja, habt's ja.
Okay, good.
Thank you
Vielen
for your
Dank.
time. And now, for you students, I have one more thing.
Raus. Gut.
All right, thanks.
As you can see on the screen, we have the TUM business game. This one. The organizers of the TUM Speakers Series thought, Speaker Series alone, that's boring, we need to do something else. So we present to you the first
international on-stage case competition in Germany from students for students. So if you're interested, if you want to develop innovative concepts for cases, feel free to register for the TUM Business Game. Thank you all for being here tonight. Have a great night. Bye.